8 news stories in the queue covering yesterday's most conversational vetted stories by you in topics of information, politics, current events, and pop culture news. I am Jay Cleveland Payne. This is Things You Might Have Heard for April the 11th, 2024. This Thursday, we're going to give you these 8 stories and a little bit of extra stuff, plus some fun stuff for along the way. So stay tuned for all that stuff as well. We want you to find out more about us at the Conversation Project's website. This is at conversationproject.com, and you can email us anytime you want to with questions, comments, concerns, and feedback to the conversation inbox at gmail.com. Now, we have 8 stories, as we said, ready to go for you. No particular order as they're being presented, but we will give you some context into how they got to where they are throughout the way we're doing and lay these things out. So stick around. It's going to be a blast. I guarantee that. So let's start off with the first story for this morning. Story number 1, as we say. A headline for the story reads like this. John Calipari officially hired as Arkansas men's basketball coach. And John Calipari, the former coach at Kentucky and then Memphis and UMass, I got the order wrong. I said Louisville. That's that other guy we're not talking about. Trust me. John Calipari is now the coach for Arkansas Razorbacks, not the Arizona Razorbacks, not the Anchorage, Alaska Razorbacks. A K, a Z, a R. They get confused a lot, unfortunately. But showing up and wearing the red and the Razorback on his chest, I don't think they did him doing a hog call, so that embarrassment will happen fairly soon, I'm sure. But John Calipari is now the new head coach for basketball, college basketball in the state of Arkansas for the state school. Though technically it's not that, the Arkansas Razorbacks. He said that he was basically hired on Monday. He agreed to the job on Monday, so all the rumors in your window was basically true. The AD Hunter Yurchek said he interviewed about 8 people for the gig, but only really asked one, and that guy said yes. $7 million salary. Now, this brings up all the things how he is working for a state school, and he technically is the highest paid state employee, but he's not being paid by taxpayers per se. He's really being paid by donors and yada, yada, blah, blah, whatnot. He's still making $7 million a year, and he's the highest paid guy at the school. So there you go. In a year where we're bringing back Bobby Petrino, which not as a head coach, though, and bringing in John Calipari as a head coach, it's going to be a wild year for Arkansas football and basketball, for Arkansas sports in general, and watching the coaching carousel this year is going to be bonkers. Hopefully we'll win some games. Kentucky won no games. Arkansas won no games. So essentially a trade-off, a fairly fair trade-off in this case here. The number 2 story, sticking with sports, this time going to the NFL and helmets. NFL helmets undergoing major change for 2024 as 12 new models are approved. The NFL is trying to do its best for safety, for concussion risk, and authorizing 12 new designs for helmets. Basically, any position on the field, any type of runner, any type of player, any type of position you've got, they've got a helmet for you for your protection. You're going to basically run these things out throughout the entire season. The policy change offers the league more flexibility in their uniform design as well and maintain the focus on player safety going forward. We'll see how this happens because the different helmets have different configurations, masks and padding and things like that. So that means they've got to conform with the actual liner of the actual uniform code. So a little code change here and some helmet change. So we should see safer football for the upcoming season and seasons to come. Let's go to the next story at number 3 this morning. Headline for that story reads, 6 former Mississippi law officers to be sentenced in state court for torture of 2 black men. This may or may not have already happened. There's been a lot of stories on this one. The story we pulled does not seem to have an update on it, but I think they actually sentenced these guys already. But 6 former members of a Mississippi law enforcement group call themselves the Goon Squad, because that's what they call themselves, for their basically willingness to go excessive whenever, and they have been sentenced to 15 to 45 years in state charges for the torture of 2 black men in particular. These officers had previously pleaded guilty to these charges, acknowledging their brutal actions. The sentencing follows an incident where the officers, all of whom are white, engaged in the torture of the 2 men, reflecting a grave misconduct and abuse of power within the law enforcement system. This is just one spot, one place, one group of 6 cops who were caught and actually convicted. I have said often, and we see this both in not so much a racial thing, although it seems to turn that way mostly, but in Tennessee, where we have the black cops their Viper unit, I guess they were called, doing their thing, and they killed the guy, but with excessive force. It's not so much a racial thing. It really is a training thing. It really comes down to that. There may be some issues of, if you're watching the video, I'm waving my hand from my face there in some cases, and some confusion and some innuendo, just kind of figuring thoughts or assumptions. But this is basically bad policing, and it comes down to all of us, wanting our cops to be big, bad, bold, and do bad stuff to bad people, but understanding that there are, various degrees of bad and bad people, and a traffic stop should not be a death sentence. We may get back to that in a bit, though. Let's go on to the next story this morning. As LeVar Burton getting a +1 on this one. LeVar Burton set to host and executive produce the CW's Trivial Pursuit after losing out on Jeopardy gig. The CW is doing what it can to turn into like an actual network and not just do shows that have really hot looking people in very odd situations that no one would actually believe, but people actually didn't watch. LeVar Burton is going to host the new version, a TV version of Trivial Pursuit, the game show. There you go. The role comes after, of course, he lost out on the big time gig on Jeopardy. So this is him saying, "Suck it, Mayim Bialik." It is a chance for him to executive produce and do more great things and do more learning. Now, we know that LeVar Burton, who, of course, the star, if you want to call it, Reading Rainbow, and a very staunch supporter of reading programs and learning programs, was sort of the fit for Jeopardy. Trivia for big nerds. This one is trivia for all nerds, and we'll see how this goes through. Now, Trivial Pursuit has not been a hot game for years, at least in its current version, but we'll see how it plays and to do the different colors and circles and as a game board. That will be cool to see, with LeVar Burton taking on the role as the host and executive producer of a new game show format of the classic game. Let's go on to the story we have at number 5 this morning. The headline reads, Chicago police fire 96 shots after gunfire breaks out at a fatal traffic stop. Didn't I say we'd say something about bad policing in a moment and how these things turn into hand waving from my face again? Here's the details from the robot editor. Let me get that first before I do the commentary. Dexter Reed's shooting incident has sparked significant controversy and scrutiny over the Chicago Police Department's use of force. Dexter Reed, a 26-year-old man, was killed by CPD officers following a traffic stop. Body cam footage shows the officers firing a total of 96 shots at Reed, with one officer alone firing at least 50 times, even after Reed was lying on the ground. So, questions about how force is being handled by police forces is kind of obvious in this one. Now, here's what happened. I've seen some analysis and seen some people interview. Now, there's two different fields. One, the guy was shot 96 times at a traffic stop. Another is the guy shot at a police officer, so he was going to get shot at whether it was a traffic stop or not. So it wasn't a case of he was asking for it, but when you're, firing at police officers in your car, it's going to spark some sort of response. 96 times, one guy shooting 50 times after he's down. Excessive, yes. So we will see how this one plays out, definitely, because this is going to be the next big high-profile police shooting at the moment. At the moment, I say, because guess what? There will be more. There are always more. They never stop. They probably will never stop. But we'll see how this one plays out in court very soon. Meanwhile, Missouri executes Brian Dorsey for 2006 double murder after mercy bid backed by 72 correctional officers. Here's a story we've been covering for all week, basically. We talked about the fact that he was going to be executed. They tried to get a clemency, tried to get leniency, and it wasn't going to happen. The governor signed off on it. And the 52-year-old man from Jefferson City, Missouri, was executed by lethal injection in Missouri for the double murder of his cousin, Sarah Bonney, and her husband, Ben Bonney, occurring in December of 2006 at their home in New Bloomfield. Now, the appeals came from many people. Prison correction officers, many executives, basically said it should not have happened, but it was performed 6:11 p.m. local time, and it is now done. You can go deeper in detail in the story by clicking the link and reading on how the background on this one. But this is one where many people who were involved in his daily life as he was, preparing for death, said it should not have happened. Your mileage, of course, may vary on your thought process on this one. Let's go to the next story, because we have to. Because you guys thought it was conversational, you guys engaged in it. We'll explain how engagement works in a moment. This is number 7 story, not number 7 based by listing, but 7 in the 8 we're presiding today. Headline reads, WNBA announces multi-year partnership with first ever over-the-counter birth control pill. We've heard a lot of talk about the O pill lately, the first ever over-the-counter birth control pill. You don't have to get a prescription for it. You just go to the pharmacy, say, I want one of those, and they give it to you. WNBA, because it's made of women, have an endorsement deal with O pill. It's that simple. Available without prescription at pharmacies and stores around the country. It represents a significant step in birth control access for everyone, and it's there. You thought engaged. You got engaged that you saw it encouraging is not the word. You saw it as something to talk about. We're talking about it. We're talking about women's sports, talking about women's basketball. We'll probably talk WNBA this summer as we'll have big superstars out there that people have been watching for the past couple of months. And that means we'll be talking about what the commercials look like for the O pill. That's how these things work, fortunately or unfortunately. And finally, would help if I unmuted myself. I have this, the number 8 story. I have this fascination with mega churches and big pastors and how things work from a odd business sense, because how do things work this way? How do little, small, tiny churches like my grandma's church stay alive? And these things are where our people are at. So when any sort of weird mega church thing pops up, I usually pop into it. So this is a filler story that kind of got pushed and pushed and pushed, to the point where I basically got pushed to about 2 a.m. this morning, a few hours before we started producing this thing this morning. And it's still the number 2 story of the morning in the engagement. So it'll probably pop up for tomorrow's, and I have to kind of remember where we talked about it. Why am I rambling? Let's get to the headline. North Carolina megachurch pastor Stephen Furtick under fire for wearing $2,000 Givenchy sweater to Easter Sunday. I'm not even sure I said that right, but Stephen Furtick, who's one of those good-looking guys with a nice little beard, and he runs a megachurch in North Carolina, wore a $2,000 sweater to Easter Sunday service. Not a big old suit, not even a big old hat, just a big old expensive designer sweater. So conversation about the expectations and perceptions of religious leaders is what this brought up to. What should you wear on Easter Sunday? What you wearing every Sunday? I wear jeans and literally jeans and a long sleeve t-shirt every single week to church because we're that way at church. At church, our pastors wear jeans and usually polo type shirts every single week. On Easter, they wear jackets. They wear sports coats. They don't necessarily do suits, but it is what it is. But this is a mega church. This is a guy who basically wears affliction jeans and all those things like that. And he has a mega following, hence the mega church label. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? You be the judge, and you don't have to go to a church or watch the services or believe what he says. But you can kind of judge that because people are basically saying he's a little bit extra for this service for Easter. Shouldn't he be being a little less? In some cases, more. Seems to be less. In our apologies, errors, and omissions section, we're going to do this story here. The story is number 14 of the 15 stories we had a chance to engage in to get you in here for our conversation, for our rundown today. We'll explain why 15 is the number in a moment. But this is a story that was very interesting. I wanted to make sure to put it in there. It's been talked about for a while. I want to make sure people are reminded of the issues going on. Very quickly, Dollar Tree's plan for $7 items is making shoppers angry. You would think you go to Five Below, and now it says Five Below Plus, because many things at Five Below are now $7, $8 because of inflation, because of prices, because things just cost more. Dollar Store has been gradually going up to $2 items and $3 items and $4 items and $5 items. And because if Five Below can go $7 and $8, why can't Dollar Tree? So it's still a dollar store, but everything's not $1 or less anymore. Dollar Tree going to $7 items, and many people not so thrilled with that one. Now, let's explain how we got to where we are with the stories that we had this morning. This right here is a teaser story. If you're watching the video, you see the headline of a screen grab of the story. We'll explain it in a moment. First, tell you how we get the teaser stories and what they're all about. This is a story that we are teasing right now as one you can engage in and let us know if you want to talk about it tomorrow. It's very simple to make that work out. You just engage in any story we post on our feeds on Facebook and Twitter. So follow us at said websites, Facebook or X if you want to, Facebook and Twitter. On Facebook, it's a Conversation Project. On Twitter or X, it's th_conversation. That's our handle there. And we post news stories every 50 minutes or so for you to engage in. You just simply like, love, hate, share, click a button to engage in it. And the higher score we get, better chance we have of talking about it. We will talk about for tomorrow, or if you do Tuesday through Friday, we'll take the top 15 stories in a day. We get over 30 or so and pick 8 of them to give to you in the headlines. For Monday, it's 30 stories from the top. It's 10 stories from top 30 stories. We get over 100 stories over the weekend. So with that said, will we talk this story up come tomorrow? The headline for it reads, billionaire In-N-Out Harris Lindsay Snyder claims she went toe-to-toe, that's a quote, to keep prices down as California fast food industry prices slammed by minimum wage hike. If you hadn't heard by now, the minimum wage as of, I think, Wednesday, as of this week, is now $20 an hour for California. So fast food workers are getting $20 an hour, and In-N-Out Burger and many other fast food places, many places in general, but fast food in particular, because it's easy to recognize, have upped the prices of combo meals by a significant amount to make up for what would be a loss. Record profits be damned. The owner, the billionaire heiress for the Fortune runner of In-N-Out Burger, says she fought to keep the prices down, but it did not happen. We can talk about this story and the $20 an hour minimum wage if you deem this worthy. Go to the websites and for Facebook and for X, Twitter, and engage in our stories and our headlines in our feeds. And if you like them enough, we'll talk about it. Or if you hate them enough, if you disengage it because you hate it, we'll talk about it come tomorrow. Let's talk about our sponsor that we're going to spotlight right now. That is Hostage Tape. And when we started with Hostage Tape, it was first just sort of a funny, silly thing. And people were kind of, what the hell? Hostage Tape? What are you talking about? This has become a phenomenon. People are in love with Hostage Tape. So much so that before the holidays, people were buying it up so they wouldn't have to worry about running out of it because they were having issues getting it and it running out. So there are constant shortages of the product. But you don't want to get a knockoff. Get the original. It's Hostage Tape, and it's the most comfortable and strongest mouth tape on the planet. Use it to cover your mouth to help you with your breathing, because you're supposed to be breathing through your nose and not through your open mouth. When you're exercising, breathe through your nose. When you're sleeping, breathe through your nose. And if you think the Hostage Tape of your mouth is a little weird, they actually make nose strips as well. So you can put on a nose strip and not be teased for having things on your mouth, I guess. Check them out at our website. It's an affiliate link, so if you use our link, we get a little bit extra, a small commission for your actual purchase. And you might want to stock up. I'm serious. This is conversationproject.com/hostage tape. This is conversationproject.com/hostage tape. Make sure you are well supplied, because Hostage Tape is tending to, at various points, be in large demand because of shortages in the production. They're up to speed now, but you never know when there's a run on Hostage Tape. The Conversation Project lives online at this conversationproject.com. We want you to be a part of the family, be a part of the crew that is the Conversation Project. You can do that by going to our website. This is conversationproject.com. Click on the partnerships page. You click on partners, you can become a partner and help us do more things. You directly help fund this stuff here. We're putting some new verbiage into our newsletters and into our written stuff that says our funding, our revenue comes from a combination of direct funders, people like you, if you will, and advertisements and affiliate links, so let people know the ins and outs of how we actually make money here. We also can do these things for most of the internet, which is basically looking for something for free. So simply go to the internet, because that's what you're going to do, and engage in the stories on Facebook and X. And that's the best thing you can do, because that gives us what to talk about. We can't just pick the stories. You guys help us pick the stories every single day for this thing here. Go to your email and email us at the conversation inbox, gmail.com. That gets a message to me that costs you nothing, and I do listen to, read, and take in every bit of into account. All seriousness, all kidding aside, no matter what it is you say, everything you say, even some of the nasty things, we read them all and we take them into consideration. You can also just engage with us in general, watch our videos, listen to our audios, and share them with the world. The more people we have sharing things together, the more people we have engaging in stuff, and the more we can do with stuff. We don't have to necessarily get all the people to subscribe to us, although subscriptions are great because we have more conversations there. But we can make things do if we have a large audience. Trying to grow our audience. We're a little stagnant right now, so this is the part where I'll say like and subscribe, because I need you to like, subscribe, and engage, if you will. Buy some stuff too if you're up to it. And now let's get to the fun stuff. Fun stuff happens every single weekday morning here on Things You Might Have Heard. And we give you today our spotlight birthday is Joss Stone. Joss Stone, who's turning 37 years old today. For some reason, I had Right to Be Wrong in my head yesterday and just played it a couple times. Like, I couldn't figure out why. And that's because over the weekend, on Sunday, I prepped the fun stuff slides, prepped the fun stuff data, and her name was there, so it was back in my head. Otherwise, we had Jeremy Clarkson, who's 64, and Jennifer Exposito, who's 51. All fine people, just like Joss Stone is a fine person, but no real standout birthdays for this Thursday, the 11th. But let's give some love to Joss Stone and the other folks anyway. Also, this history lesson for the day. For 1981, 12 days after he was wounded in an assassination attempt, President Ronald Reagan returned to the White House. This is a big day for history. Every day is a big day for history, but this is a big day for history in America and politics, as the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan put a lot of things into motion. A lot of times we, in this day and age, have people who are of prominence who are shot with guns and then we don't do anything about it. This one brought about the Brady Bill, brought about big gun reform in the 80s, oddly enough, which you wouldn't think so. And it was led by Republicans because they shot their leader. Now, Republicans are afraid to touch any gun issues because it's a fundamental right. It wasn't a right to shoot a president, but now it's a fundamental right to basically hold the guns that have way too many clips, way too many bullets going forward. That's a bit of commentary I shouldn't be saying, but I just said it. Let's go on to the word for the day. Brought to you by the Big Words Project. Find out more about the words for the day at thebigwordsproject.com. Today we're going with divulge, if you want to be British about it. Make known to the public information previously kept secret. Divulging information to folks, if you will. And finally, we're going to have a celebration today. So let's celebrate 8-track tape day. Most people under 30, maybe 35, have never seen an 8-track tape or a 8-track cartridge, if you will, if you're in the radio business. One thing we used for a long time, late into the 2000s, were cartridges, tapes, carts, if you will, to put jingles and things on because it was an easy way to put things on and play them at quick speeds. But the 8-track tape was invented mid-60s and became a staple in cars as portable music. You can't really play a record in your car, but the first way to take portable music with you in the 60s and all through the 80s was the 8-track magnetic tapes. Awesome sounding technology for the time. Obviously well past its time. Check out what it is. If you're under 35, go to YouTube, look up 8-track. You'll all, well, it won't make any sense to you, but you'll understand. You'll see what we're talking about, at least. Let's get out of here. Let's wrap it up today. It's Thursday, April 11th, 2024. I am still Jay Cleveland Payne. This is still Things You Might Have Heard, although we're on the wrap-up stages, so essentially we're done. Make sure you're staying limber and hydrated and on task for all the grand things you're here to do on this here planet, and just be nice to each other. Be grand. Be great. Follow us on our feed so we know what stories to talk about for tomorrow and prepping us for the weekend shows. Make sure you email us at the conversation inbox, gmail.com. Let us know what you're thinking about things. And, of course, consider being a partner. Consider it. We thank you for that in advance. Love you. Mean it. Let's get out of here. See you tomorrow.